At the time you opened this letter, Juby and I must have already left the US for the UK. How unpredictable life is. I still remember being on the roof of your old apartment 2 years ago, back in May, when you shared stories about your trip to Europe in high school. I was so fascinated by the videos and pictures you showed me, especially curious about the jazz band you used to lead at that time. I recall telling you, I have never been to Europe. See how magical life is when you open this letter. Juby and I will, of course, be in the UK. And shortly thereafter, we will be traveling to my most dreaming land, Venice, the city made of water, which has always been a very, very special place in my heart since girlhood. How magical. I will be there, following an unknown yet unwavering calling to England, not knowing how the UK will treat me in music and life. I wrote this letter to you at the end of July 2025. It is 9 p.m. now. I am under a street light, sitting by the Hudson River, and Juby sits right next to my feet. For no apparent reason, I find myself with a very strong urge to write this letter before leaving the US, and it is a letter I want to write to you, and only you. It feels like my fingers now are simply following the flow of my inner river, even without thinking, as I channeled my feelings into words, one after another, line after line. My fingers push the pen and paper as if the summer winds are forcing me to. As you know, a scheduled departure is happening right in front of me. My flight to Europe will first actually land in Paris. Then I will take the train to London with Juby, and subsequently to Oxford. England has the strictest rules regarding the acceptance of international service dogs, as you know, in my case, little Juby, which makes a direct flight to London from New York City a little bit risky, because the UK airport may not even allow Juby to enter upon our arrival. My love and responsibility for Juby cannot allow me to take any potential risk. After months of research, flying with Air France to Paris first, which has relatively welcoming standards regarding the intake of service dogs, and then taking the train to London become the only path I will take. Do you know, I have only nervousness about this unknown yet upcoming trip across countries with Juby. It will be Juby's first flight since she was born on April 26th of 2021, and it will also be mine after a while, a long time, since my last flight was back in the summer of 2019 from Shanghai to Boston. Sadly, I never got a chance to travel home after that. I know that I have no choice but to follow this relocation journey, an artistic and academic pursuit in England. During the past whole year, I mean July 24 to July 25 in my life, the US had only treated me with countless rejections in all forms. Job applications, PhD applications, one after another, day after day. Sadly, the only for sure offer I had ever received besides 122 rejections after graduation was this one from Oxford. I will be finally composing for classical orchestra, a divine dream I have always wanted to follow besides jazz writings. It's like magic, isn't it? You said exactly the same sentence to me before. It is, I guess, magic. Outside of the Birdland, even today, when looking back, I always feel like it was magic. Each event that coincidentally linked you and I to encounter each other was a miracle. You were, and still are, that magic to me. Trust me, always and forever. For no reason, you naturally understand me, even though we haven't spoken or communicated with each other for a long time. I sometimes still converse with you through internal dialogues, and you do the same because I can sense it without any logical or external proof. I guess it is magic. I know you have always been caring and considerate, even though you sometimes appear careless or cold from the outside. You haven't responded or picked up any of my messages or phone calls for a long time. Eventually, I became increasingly discouraged from contacting you, not due to resentment, fear, concerns, or any stupid sense of pride or dignity, but rather because of my scars and scares, which I will honestly explain to you or in this letter. My intuition always convinces me that you see me, you know me, you feel me, you understand me, you trust me, and you care about me. Knowing that we communicate through telepathy gives me the calm, courage, and confidence to write this letter to you. A letter written from my heart, not my mind, based on intuitive, heartfelt, mutual trust and care for each other that we naturally carry within our soul's awareness through and tangibly share even before we physically met this lifetime. Unspoken through the words, but vividly active within our sensations. 2 years ago, the moment we met, it was just a recognition, not a new encounter from our hearts and souls. You know it, no less than I do. I'm writing this letter from my heart and soul to yours. Our connection, once recognized, lasts forever. No one else, no external condition would cut this connection internally or externally. It feels like my soul contains yours, and so do yours. Deep down, in your heart, not your mind, you unspeakably understand and feel my unspoken pain. I know your soul knows the reason why I was pushed to the edge during last winter. After 7 months of only seeming silence avoidance from you, I can no longer send you unreplied messages. I can no longer keep making you unreplied phone calls, because it only reminds me of my most unbearable loss to my brother. At first, I questioned this ridiculous fate that led me to be mentally punished once again in a similar way, losing the person I loved the most all of a sudden, no matter how many times I tried to reach out and cherish them. From my side, the story is one of a repetitive pain. One happened in the age of 9 and the other on the age of 29. two people I unconditionally loved and cared deeply for. You and my brother have sadly similar behaviors, even though for different reasons. In all the reaching out attempts and forms I have ever made to both of you. July has always been a repetitive, tough month for me. Every July is cold, painful, lonely, and hopeless. 21 years ago, July was the month my brother's life was taken away, and it was also the same month 1 year ago, for any reason from your side that I'm not aware of, that you stopped answering me, regardless of the context or form in which I tried to reach out to you. But please do not worry, I've already forgiven you for not responding, and you never ever need to explain the reason why to me, so there's always no need to describe yourself in front of me, because I simply already appreciate you for whatever form you choose to represent yourself in that specific condition, explainable or not. There's one thing I have yet to tell you. My parents and I still pay for my brother's phone number to ensure it remains valid, even to this day, and in the future as well. My brother died years before WeChat was even created, and I secretly registered a WeChat account for him during my first year as a freshman in Hangzhou. Still, it was made for my grave and yearnings, a place to update my life with him, pretending that he was still alive. A chat room where to this day I still keep sending messages and making phone calls, knowing that there would never be any potential or possible chances ever to get a response from him. There are physical messages and phone calls I make to my brother in spirit. Of course, he cannot pick up the phone calls or write me back either, at least in this physical world I still live in. But do you know how painful it felt from my side to accept the truth that my WeChat dialogue room with you seems exactly as deadly silent as the other pinned one with my brother. The most painful part to me is to accept the fact that you seemed only to avoid messages and phone calls from me, but still keep responsive to others like our common friends. Do you know how lonely it feels to me? You know, it was very, very heartbroken, and it was very heartbroken that I was actually the only unnecessary existence in your life. I feel that way, at least. Or a meaningless part you had decided to cut off or let go of without informing me. But you were such a meaningful presence, and you will always be forever in my life and heart's innermost circle. As mentioned before, I don't easily put people in my inner circle. I've always been cautious in opening my heart's door to allow people in. I know myself through and through. I stubbornly root myself in the connection I have with the very, very rare people in my inner circle. With that being said, I will forever cherish the connection I once had with you, no matter how externally shaken. I will forever still remember the moment when you had me. That late spring Friday back in 24, between final week classes, you encouraged me to go to Boston. I remember how you deeply hugged me, carefully saying, "May I ask you for one thing?" A few seconds of silence. You said in a clear and gentle tone, "Trust me," you said. That was a moment I give you all, trust, gratitude, and Juby. I give you Juby. You may never know how much Juby weighs in my life and heart. To me, she's never just a dog. She is a gifted living piece of my deceased brother. Juby shares the same birthday as my brother. The moment I saw Juby, I believed it was no coincidence. My brother must have sent Juby to save my life. And yes, since her arrival, Juby has actually brought me back to life again. It feels like this, that my parents give me my physical life, but it was Juby who saved my mental well-being. Thanks to Juby, I survived as a living miracle, as if I had been given a second chance to be alive and to present myself when we first met in front of you. You didn't know me, didn't know who Moon is back in 2020, 21, 22, during my darkest hospitalized time, experiencing major depressive episodes and traumatic PTSD. It was only because of Juby's arrival that I was brought back to life. Since then, I had never, ever been apart from her for more than 6 hours. Due to childhood traumas linked to my brother's death and 6 years of severe bullying from middle school through high school, my experiences growing up has been profoundly challenging. It is just very, 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 very hard for me to trust any human being. The only being I give immediate and complete trust to in 21 was Juby. And the only being I give immediate and complete trust to in 23 was you. I give Juby to you without any hesitation. It already means everything, meaning I trust you, always, and still do. Because I trust you already, always, and still do, I write this letter to you, knowing that at some point it will reach you through your eyes to your heart and soul, and you will understand how deeply and importantly your existence means to me. I never lie or exaggerate. Being honest with the words that from my mouth is the quickest way to stay in tune with my heart. You must remember that I have mentioned it twice to you. You are a gift to me. You truly are. Although it may seem from the surface that you show me with sometimes extreme coldness, carelessness, and unknown concerns, I still naturally know that deep in your heart and soul, you just hold a forever trust, care, and love for me too. As you mentioned, it's like magic. Remembering how my index finger pointed to the precious place where your heart beats underneath, promising I left my heart there. Ever since then, trust me, no matter what happens in life, no matter which condition it seems, no matter where we are, separated or together, each time your heart beats, mine as well. To the man